Hello, I'm Emily and I'm an educator at MOHAI, and this is Collection Connections Objects in Question, where we take a quick peek into Seattle history by taking a really close look at an item in our teaching collection to see what it can tell us about the past. Today, we're going to be exploring Seattle style, and this is our artifact. But first, let's have a think. So, when I think of Seattle style, what do I think about? For me, the very first thing that I think about are casual clothes and outdoors wear. And when we had an exhibit here at MOHAI all about Seattle style, we explored Seattle clothing through history by taking a really close look at the ways that our local geography has shaped the clothes that we wear, the way that West Coast casual clothing kind of became a phenomenon in the later part of the 20th century. And we looked at Seattle as a city of innovation and technology and how that has kind of impacted the clothes that we wear, and also Seattle as a global city and the ways that that has shaped our clothing and style here. Now, one question that I might ask myself if I'm thinking about Seattle style and history is, why do we wear the clothes that we wear? And I think we wear things for all sorts of reasons, right? We wear clothes for functional purposes, and we see that in the way that we change our clothes depending on the season. You know, we wear clothes to stay warm in the winter, and we shed layers in the summer to deal with the hot weather. And we also wear clothing sometimes because we like the way we look. We like the way that we feel or are seen when we wear certain kinds of clothes. And so because of all of these things, clothing can be really affected by things like gender and class and also culture. One other thing I might ask myself is, why or how does clothing change over time? And one of the first things I think about in terms of that question are technological changes, like the industrialization of making fabrics as opposed to weaving them by hand. I also think about things like global forces such as immigration and the ways that that introduces new clothing styles into a culture. For example, plaid is something that we think of as a super common American fabric pattern, but is something that was introduced to us by Scottish immigrants and settlers. And another thing that I think about are different cultural phenomenons like music that affect the way that we dress. A lot of people think of grunge music when they think of Seattle, and they also think about grunge fashion when they think of Seattle. So those are some of the things that I think about when I think about Seattle style. This is the object we'll be exploring today. Our first step is to use our senses to take a look at our artifact. Now, our next step is to use our senses to make as many observations as possible. So the very first thing that I notice is this shape. It reminds me of a t-shirt. It's got a rectangular body, and it's got two short sleeves. And as far as size goes, it looks like it wouldn't fit me. It looks smaller than I am, but I'm noticing the tag right here does say medium, and usually I can fit into a medium adult size shirt. So I'm thinking that this might be a child size t-shirt. And then as far as materials go, it feels really soft. It feels kind of like cotton. It's got this really worn quality to it. And I'm also noticing that there's stitching that's visible on the cuffs. There's some thicker fabric folded over around the collar. And I'm noticing that it's all purple except for these letters on the front that are in pink, and then these letters that are on the inside that are in black. Now, taking a look at some of the markings inside, I see Hypercolor, which is the same thing that we see on the front, that medium size, and then some instructions for how to wash it, and that it's made in the United States. Now, this isn't a super, it's not a very hyper t-shirt for something that says Hypercolor on the front of it. It's actually kind of a dull purple color, and it's pretty plain. It's giving me really 90s vibes as far as the kind of neon colors go. So yeah, that's what I've noticed about this artifact. I hairdryer. All right, let's see what this does. Oh my goodness. Ah, that is so cool. Check that out. This t-shirt is heat activated. Oh my goodness. It turned pink. It turned pink wherever the hot air was blowing. That's so cool. Oh wow, and look, we can see that it's fading pretty quickly, which is so neat. So this Hypercolor t-shirt was invented by a local clothing company, Generra, in the early 1990s, and it was super, super popular for a very brief moment in time, particularly among middle and high school students. So in February to May of 1991 alone, the company sold over $50 million worth just of this t-shirt style. So the company called this a metamorphic color system, and the way that works is that there is a permanent dye underneath, and then it's dyed a second time with a thermochromatic dye, meaning that it is heat activated. And so what happens when that dye is activated by heat is that it goes from absorbing light to releasing light, which in this case was the pink color that we saw. Now, this was a super, super popular fad, but only for a brief moment in time. The kind of magical properties of this fabric start to wear away really quickly after a couple of washes, and especially after one hot wash. And eventually the company went bankrupt in 1992. So very exciting, very big, very brief. So what does this tell us about Seattle style? One of the things that I think this shows us is just that this is a really great example of a local casual wear company that's mostly just making athleisure wear and is trying to find that big thing that's gonna make their sales go off the charts. And I think this is also a really great example of kind of the technological aspects of Seattle fashion innovations that have influenced our clothing throughout the centuries. And I also think that this is a really great example of innovation as a process that involves a lot of trial and error and failure. I'm definitely really curious to know if other people experimented with thermochromatic dyes at this time, and if anybody kind of found a way to make them last a little bit longer. What are you curious about? To explore some of your history questions or maybe check out Seattle style throughout history, you can visit the MOHAI website and the MOHAI online collection at mohai.org, that's mohai.org, and email us at education@mohai.org to let us know what you're wondering about too. Thanks for watching.